Okay, so here we are looking at my 1994 GMC Suburban. Got 100,000 miles on it. Well taken care of. But I'm having a problem with the noise coming from the, I believe the compressor when the air conditioning is engaged. At first I thought it might have been the tensioner, because I noticed a flat spot here on the pulley. And there is a little bit of a noise coming from the bearing. There's no play in it, but it had a noise and it had the flat spot in it, so I thought maybe the belt was hopping on the pulley for the compressor. So I went out to AutoZone and bought a whole new idler. But that's not the problem, and I'll show you the noise here. So, I guess I'll tear into that and see what we get. Okay, so here we are. Went out and got a ACclutch hub puller and installer kit from AutoZone. This is a rental deal, which basically how their rental deals work is you buy the kit. This is $100. Then you've got 90 days to return it for a full refund. And if you don't return it within 90 days, well, then you bought a kit. So, I got the clutch pulled off. On my particular unit, I use this tool here, which is listed as G. This is listed as a installer, but it was the only thing I could really find in the kit that would thread into here to pull it. So, I don't know, maybe it's not the right thing, but it worked for me. Just screw this part here into the clutch, run the bolt through, and it pulls it off just like you would expect a regular pulley to do. Now here is the pulley for the air conditioner. Now when I spin it, it doesn't make any noise, but there is some play here. I do have play in this bearing. I know it's kind of hard to see because my light bulb blew out, but this clutch surface here, this plate surface, does have some grooves in it. So I don't know how important that is. But the next step is going to be to pull this snap ring and then pull this pulley off. And we'll get to that. Okay, so here you can see I went ahead and removed the pulley, and I already cleaned it up, but there was some grease and debris on the back side of this bearing. Looked like it just skated on out. The bearing is held in by a method I've never really seen before. It looks like they just crimped some steel down when they pressed it in. And it looks looks to me like they just, when they press this in, it just grabs some of the steel here and then seated the bearing. I'm not sure how hard it would be just to replace that bearing, but it doesn't look like a job that I'd want to do. Let's see if I can pick up a bearing number for reference. That bearing number is going to be 6559469. This is an NSK bearing. Feels good. Doesn't catch, but there was play in it, as you seen when I had it on the spindle. So this here looks like it might be chipped up a little bit. Not sure why. Well, I'm going to pull this, I guess you'd call it electromagnet. I'm not sure what the actually called, but pull this off. I've got a new one with the kit that I got to replace all this. So I'll pull this off and we'll go from there. Does not appear to be a snap ring in there. So I'm thinking it just pulls off. It's probably just pressed on. This bearing, or this pulley, how I got it off is I just tapped it off with the hammer. It came off pretty easy. Just a couple taps on the back side and it walked right off of there, no problems. Now we'll see about getting this deal off. Okay, so I got this off. It's just pressed on to the thing, but I want to show you guys how I did it. This is just a small crowbar, and I just simply went in the back side, pried, you know, like this all the way around, and then just walked it off of this flange right here. There's no locating notches or anything, but for reference, the plug was straight up. So when I go put the new one on, I'll just have to remember where the plug goes. There does seem to be some grease residue on the inside of that. So far it's coming apart pretty good. We'll just get her cleaned up a little bit, hose her down with some brake cleaner, and put it back together, I guess. Okay, so here's a new clutch assembly from AutoZone. Part numbers there. Paid $119 for this. New pulley. New magnet. New clutch assembly. Looks like they used a similar method of securing the bearing in there. One thing I noticed, I ain't figured it out, is this is also a NSK bearing, but it has a different part number. This bearing number is 40BD 49 DUK. So why there'd be a different part number from the same company for which should be the same bearing, I don't know. But we'll get to getting this put back together and go from there. One thing I want to talk about, one of the forums I read said that this noise was coming from the older style brackets. This bracket here apparently was made out of steel at one time, and this pump would rattle in this bracket. And I checked these bolts before I went through this whole process. But one thing I'm noticing now that I got everything pulled apart is these tabs here on these bolts. It looks like they're designed to keep this bolt from turning. When I go to get on there with a socket, it doesn't fit right. It fits kind of funky. So I'm thinking that you have to tighten these mounting bolts from the back side, which is something I didn't do. So as we get going on, if this don't cure my problem, I'll try doing that, see what we come up with that. But I wanted to make a note of that for you guys who might be following this and other threads to boot. One thing I want to note before I go putting this together is on the inside here, on this, I guess it's porcelain, it looks like you can see some of the copper windings showing through the porcelain. I'm not sure how critical that is, but I want to make a note of it. Right, there's a part number 170402 on this magnet. Well, okay, so it took me a while to figure out how to get this on. I seen a video where a guy says to put the unit in the vise and then come down here on the metal part and tap this in with a screwdriver. And I goofed with that for I don't know how long and got nowhere with it. Then I thought, well, I'll cut a piece of PVC pipe. And I tried beating it on with that for God knows how long. And then I decided just to get it on there, get it started. Take the old pulley and use the old pulley to drive it on, and that's what I did. I was kind of concerned that I would mess up the porcelain, but I didn't. So once I got this started, I just took the old pulley, got her on there to where she fit onto the sleeve here, and then just beat it on with a hammer. I figured the old pulley didn't matter because it wasn't going to be reused. And I just beat it on around and around and around till it just wouldn't go no more, and seated up in there fine. So now I guess we'll go about putting on the new pulley. Okay, got the new pulley installed. This was a treat. It did go on pretty easy, but I wanted to make sure I didn't take that bearing out when I was putting it on. So I just held it up on there, tapped it on a little bit. This is a piece of PVC pipe fits right in there on the bearing in the hub. I believe I'm not sure if it's 1.5 inches or what, but it did fit perfectly. And then I just beat on the PVC to, just beat on the PVC with a hammer, and then just drive it onto the housing here. Put the snap ring back on. The beveled side goes out on the snap ring. There's no noise when I spin the new bearing. It seems good, but when I can jiggle it side to side, I do have some play in there. Do not know if it was in there new or if maybe I damaged it putting it on. I'm not sure, but there is a little bit of play in there. Not as much play that was in the old one, but I don't know. So we're moving forward and go from there. Okay, so here we are, and I just installed the clutch plate. Now when you look at this kit, it tells you it's got removers and installers and a nut arbor and all that, but I tried figuring out what I needed to put that clutch plate on, and at first I thought I had to use number D, because it was the only thing that would fit on the threaded post, and then a portion of number G, but I still couldn't really get it to work. I don't know if my threads were messed up on the inside of this post here. This post has threads on the OD of it, and I don't know if my threads were messed up and wasn't allow that particular installer to work. But what I ended up doing is just this clutch has got a keyway in it, so you put the keyway in the clutch, get it started onto the shaft, and then I just took a what is this, 9/16 socket, and then just tapped it on with a hammer, the side of the hammer, and that worked pretty well. And then you just keep tapping it on, tapping it on, tapping it on, and then you have to set what they call the air gap. There's a space in between this pulley and this clutch plate, and from what I read, they want you to set this between 20 and 30 thousandths. Well, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that's pretty skinny gap, especially, I don't know if I'll be able to show you guys, when you take into account that my pulley has some play in it. I can take this pulley and it's got play. It sounds good, but that bearing has some play in it. So, knowing that this pulley is going to vibrate when it's going around, and knowing that it's going to vibrate especially when it's under load, when this clutch plate locks up. I opted to set my gap at 35 thousandths, so I figured an extra 5 thousandths may help me, but it wasn't going to kill me. So I've got this gap set at 35 thousandths. I just simply used a 25 thousandths feeler gauge and a 10 thousandths feeler gauge. And well, what I do here they are. I took my feeler gauge set apart to get the two I needed. And then you just simply a light drag, you know, not a maybe that's a little bigger than a 35, but I'm calling it a 35. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. That's actually a 20. 11 and 12. That's a 23. Yeah, what I do with the ones I had. Maybe it was these two. Alright. Yeah, there we go. 25 thousandths and a 10 thousandths. Alrighty. Yeah, there we go. Just a slight drag on it all the way around, all the way down. And all the way around. So I set mine at 35. We'll see what we get. I'm getting ready to put this back together. And hopefully that noise will be gone. But if it ain't, I'm wondering if it isn't on account of the bearing, just the play in the bearing. Or if it's the pump. We'll have to wait and see what we get. Okay, so here we are, got it installed. Everything seems to be running okay with the air conditioner off. The one thing I am concerned with is the amount of movement going on in that idler pulley. Let me turn the unit on, see what we get. Okay, well, the noise is still present. Sounds a little different to me though, I'm not sure why. The pump is getting pretty warm. I can feel a vibration in the whole unit, but I can't feel where it's knocking in any one particular spot from the back side of the case. No change in the noise. Trying to move the compressor around in the case makes no change in the noise. So I'm not sure if this is an internal noise or if it's a noise coming from the belt or the idler pulley. Or the bearing in the clutch pulley, but whatever it is, the $120 I just spent on it didn't cure it. Hey, you guys on the forum, let me know what you think about this. See you later. Goodbye. Okay, so here's some more notes on what I've done. The air gap is always tightest between the 1 o'clock and about the 5 o'clock position. I went ahead and drove this clutch plate all the way up against it as far as it would go in, to see if the noise was still present, you know, even without it being turned on, if the noise was still present. And with the clutch plate all the way up, no air gap, the noise was still present. So I took the puller and I backed it out a little bit till I had a minimum gap on my tight side of, right now it's set at about 23 thousandths. Over here it's bigger, we're into the 30s over here, about 30 thousandths, 32 thousandths. And I got about 23 thousandth gap in this area here. I don't know why that is. I suspect it's because of the play in the bearing for the pulley. I suspect that the tension on the belt is cocking this pulley this way, making the gap for the clutch smaller in this area. That's my theory. The play in the bearing on the old pulley, I had more play in it and the noise was louder. This bearing still has some play in it, the noise is still present. I'm inclined to believe that the noise is from the bearing in this pulley, allowing it to wobble. I suspect it's one of the reasons why I get the fluctuation in my idler pulley that I do. This is fluctuating, this is fluctuating. But that's just my theory. I do not know if it's sound. I cannot rule out that the pump itself is bad because I just don't know enough about them to know. I have, you know, on the forum, one of the guys posted a page about running the AC to the back on the early 94s or 95s. There's a date. I ain't looked up the date yet to know if my vehicle falls within that range, but I ran the air in the back thinking that it wasn't getting oil or whatever, the complete system wasn't circulating. And the system blows cold. It blows cold in the back, it blows cold in the front, but the noise is still present. So I'm inclined to believe that it's the bearing, but I don't know for sure. It could be this idler, but I doubt it. This is all brand new. The truck's got 100,000 miles on it, but as you can see, there's no cracks in the belt. The belt has been replaced at some point in time, but I don't know when. So that's where we're at with this unit. If anybody's got any suggestions or ideas, let me know. I do not think that loose mounting brackets could be the case here because you know, I tried putting pressure on the mounting brackets and the pump itself, it made no effect. So you guys on the forum, give it some thought. You guys have been here before, let me know what you made out. But right now, you know, everything's set up the way it's supposed to be. This is a brand new clutch kit. Has a 1-year warranty from AutoZone, 119 bucks. I think I'm just going to run it for now, and as it gets worse, if I have to, I'll pull it off and warranty it. But I am interested in knowing your guys' thought on this. So get some time, give me a shout back, and many thanks for your help. And goodbye.